You're listening to the Breakaway Wealth Podcast, the show that helps you build wealth faster, think outside the box, and break out of the herd. Here's your host, Jim Oliver.
Welcome back, Breakaway Wealth. I'm your host, Jim Oliver, and it's just me today. And we're going to talk about something that came up on a podcast episode that I was on, a different show called Tales to Abundance. And they were asking questions about how do some people break out, but most never will, right? So let me say something that might sting a little bit, is most people don't fail because of their circumstances. They fail because of their identity with their circumstances, right? They think if they're poor, then they deserve to be poor, or they don't know something about money that other people do, and people that have money know, and maybe that part of that is right. But I know that I've lived both sides of this line, right? I've lived the scarcity side of the line, and I've lived the abundance side of the line, and I can tell you the abundance side is better. But there were some seasons in my life where I looked successful, and internally I was fragmented, frustrated, and drifting. Same city, same economy, same access to information, wildly different outcomes. So some people break out, most stay stuck. And then explain why it was reasonable and to stay stuck. And so why do most people stay stuck? And this episode is about why. It's not motivation. It's not hype. It's not believe harder. This is about how breakout humans think. People that break out, break away from the herd, how they think, decide, act. When life hits them in the mouth, like Mike Tyson would say, how do you think, decide, and act? And if you listen closely, you'll hear yourself in one of these camps, okay? Here's the pattern that I've seen after decades in business, wealth strategy, and life. People who break out are not smarter. They're not smarter. They're not luckier. And they're not more privileged. I wouldn't say that I'm at the top of any of those things, honestly. They're operating from a different identity. And once I learned this to change my identity, what I saw, how I saw myself, I've watched people with better resumes than me, more credentials, more opportunity, more capital, never move, never take action. Remember, action cures fear, and really action cures everything. And I've watched people with less education, less support, less margin reinvent their lives. The difference? Most people ask, what should I do? Right? That seems like a reasonable question. But breakout people, they ask, who must I become? That distinction changes everything. When my life forced me to confront that question, there was no tactic that could save me. Only identity would work. So, your results don't come from your tactics. They come from your self-image. Who do you think you are? Do you think you're that poor kid that grew up and had nothing and, was homeless at one point in time? If I think that's who I am, guess what? That's who I am. Your self-image, you have to realize that you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your identity. And I didn't always understand this. There were seasons where I worked harder than ever, read more books, added more strategy, and still felt stuck because of all of it, because underneath it all, there were still quiet beliefs running the show. I felt like I really didn't deserve it. I didn't deserve abundance and wealth and everything else. I mean, did I deserve it? Absolutely. We all deserve it. But how many times have you heard somebody say something like this? I'm bad with money. I'm just not disciplined. I don't like to get up in the morning and work out. That's just not me. I get sore when I work out. I have a bad experience doing this or that in the past. I'll start that when things calm down. Okay. So, at one point I realized something uncomfortable. I was outsourcing responsibility while calling it patience. But, I never felt patient because I think I've always been a breakout person, breaking out from my childhood, breaking out from trauma, breaking out from circumstances, breaking out from the herd of Wall Street, even though I was making money. I could have done that my whole life. I see people do it their whole lives and they're fine. But people believe something radically different. I'm the kind of person who figures it out. Not later, not when it's easy, now. They don't wait for confidence. They act their way to confidence. Let me say that again. They don't wait for confidence. They act their way into confidence. That's how my entire trajectory changed. And so one of the most important things that I've learned from Tony Robbins is your emotional state determines your behavior far more than your circumstances. Right? He would say, like, stand up straight, put your head up, and try to feel sad, right? Put your shoulders back, stand up, smile. Now try to feel bad. And then he'd say, well, lump over and talk real slow and look down and try to feel happy. That's what I mean by your state. But I had to learn this the hard way. There were moments in my life where I let my story run. I could just, staying small forever. I could have justified it in my head. Again, I wasn't a great student. I didn't have any resources whatsoever coming out of childhood to be an adult. Had 2 children. I mean, had all kinds of excuses to just settle. But the story of where I thought I was going and I started to visualize, it started to get more and more convincing. The excuses, they were logical and the pain felt real. And most people let the news, their past, their parents, their last mistake control their state. But I learned to train my state, and breakout people train their state. They don't ask, how do I feel today? They ask, what state does this situation require today? There were days I didn't feel strong, didn't feel confident, didn't feel clear, but I chose decisiveness anyway. That's when momentum started, okay? It was basically action, everyday progress. What does progress look like today? When I write that out in the morning, what does that look like? And then it's like Darren Hardy talks about the compound effect. It's just a little bit every day, a little bit more, a little bit more. Now, here's the thing that we talk a lot about is the gap in the gain, Dan Sullivan. And here's where most people sabotage themselves is, and you'll hear me say this to my team all the time, is they're living in the gap. They're comparing where they are, where they think they should be, which creates shame, pressure, paralysis. Paralysis is the opposite of action. I lived there longer than I care to admit. There were days where, like, getting divorced and thinking, what am I going to do? What does my life look like? What do I even want? Trying to find my why, trying to find my vision. And I'm always measuring myself against some imaginary version of where I should be now. I mean, I even look at these letters from J.D. Rockefeller and think, man, why didn't I think bigger? Why didn't I want to be the richest man in the world? And Dan Sullivan teaches the elite performers do this instead. They live in the game. They measure who they were against who they are becoming. Okay, let me say that again. Who they were versus who they're becoming. Not to perfection, right? That little shift alone, who they were to who they're becoming, living in the game. That shift alone, is how I evaluate my life. How far have I come? There's a line in a song that says, where you end up is often, where you end up depends on where you start, right? I think that's bull, right? That is bull. I hate that. That's why I hate, like, the class system in England and, like, in the, ancient movies and books. Like, I would have been like a slave or whatever. I mean, and had no opportunity to do anything. We live in the best country that's ever existed in the world because we have opportunity. Okay. And sometimes people take that opportunity. Most of the time they still don't. Okay. So that breakout people track progress, not perfection. You'll hear me say that over and over again. My team gets tired of hearing it. Are you making progress? They don't quit because they're not there yet. They use evidence of momentum to compound their belief. Hey, I'm getting better. I'm getting stronger. And when you're not, okay, like I hurt my back and I haven't worked out for a couple of days and I feel like I've been eating and in my head and living in the gap, I can think, man, I bet I gained 5 pounds. I bet I gained 10 pounds. Man, I'm going to be so weak next time I work out. All of that is living in the gap. That's living in the stuck thinking. Okay. So let me make this painfully clear. Stuck people think, what if this doesn't work? I need more certainty. I'll start when I know more, right? That's risky. Real estate, a lot of work. Owning a business, I don't know anything about that. I thought every one of these thoughts at some point in time. They sound responsible. They sound mature. They keep you frozen. What breakout people think is, what's the cost of staying the same? What's the cost of not getting up at 4:30 and working out? Well, there's a lot of costs for me. I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I feel. I don't like the way that my clothes fit. I don't like that I don't feel like I'm making progress. I mean, there's so many things. And then also breakaway people think, how can I recover if this fails? If I hurt my back, what am I going to do? I'm going to rest for a couple days. Yep, rest is hard. And then what's the asymmetric upside? Well, getting stronger at 60, looking better and better and better, clothes fitting better, being happier with the way that I look, feel as my number gets higher, but I don't age as much as the average 60-year-old. And maybe not even the 90% of 60-year-olds or 99% of 60-year-olds. That's the goal, right? And who do I need to become to handle this? Well, yesterday I went to the chiropractor, went to the regular doctor, cortisone shot, and I'm planning on playing golf today. The mindset of who do I need to become to handle this is what led me to commit fully to owner-based thinking, to infinite banking, to control over cash flow instead of outsourcing it. This didn't eliminate risk, but the risks become anti-fragile, or I become anti-fragile, right? I mean, the risks become fragile and I become anti-fragile, if that makes sense. Like I can get through that, whatever it is, whatever setbacks there are. All right, so part of this too is having ruthless personal standards. Okay, so like this is where the real separation happens. This morning, I forgot to turn off my alarm. It went off, right? 4:30. I just got up. And breakaway people have non-negotiable standards. And it didn't happen overnight for me. I didn't always wake up at 4:30, but it happened when I realized that if I didn't raise my standards, my life would be quietly settled. I would settle. Okay. So breakaway people, they don't miss commitments to themselves. They don't tolerate energy vampires. They don't allow confusion to linger. They clean up their calendar. They clean up their environment. They clean up their inputs, and they get rid of all the people that are in their lives or things that are in their lives that bring them down. They protect their mornings. They focus, cash flow, decision quality. You have to protect that. They act before they feel ready. And others make excuses. That's not talent. That's discipline married to identity. I am abundance. I have the lifestyle that I want. Okay. So this ownership line that you cross, there's a moment in every breakout story, a line you cross from, this is happening to me, or why is this happening to me, to this is happening for me and I'm responsible for the response. That's it. I remember exactly when I crossed that line. And it was, after being 26 years old, divorced for the first time, a single dad. And I was like, now I could be the victim again and have lots of excuses of why I wasn't going to be successful, or why the reason that I'm off track is because of the kids. And, then I'm going to coach my kids. So it's more important for me to be a good dad than it is to be successful in business or to build wealth or have impact on others. I'm just going to focus on that. Right. But I didn't. I did coach my kids' sports, both of them. My daughter only played sports for a year or two, but I coached my son until he was in high school, and I built a successful business, and I was a single dad, and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have parents to teach me how to be a good parent. I was winging it, and I'm not saying I did a great job there, but as I built my business, I just stopped making excuses. And there was no applause. There was no announcement, just a quiet internal decision. And victims wait, operators and owners move. They take action. So here's my challenge to you. Stop asking, why is this so hard? And start asking, what is this building in me? What is this building in me? And if it's building health, if it's building wealth, which goes hand in hand, then get into the flow of that. Get into the belief of that. Those positive affirmations in the morning, gratitude at night, programming your mind of who you are. Put your picture into ChatGPT and say, with just a pair of shorts on or women with a sports bra or something, and tell ChatGPT, add 6 pounds of muscle and take 10 pounds of fat off, or whatever your thing is. Something you could accomplish in a year, right? And then claim that identity once you see this picture, right? So have ChatGPT use AI to show you what you can become, your body, and then identify with that. That's you now. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. Every breakout person I know uses pressure as training, uses pain as fuel, uses delay as refinement. Those are the things we got to do. They didn't get there wherever they are or get here by avoiding hardship. They got here by extracting meaning from it. And they didn't wait for permission. They decided. The moment you decide, the game changes. The moment you decide to be healthy, it's over. You're not unhealthy anymore. The moment you decide to have abs, to have wealth, the moment you decide, like really decide, not, hey, I'm going to have wealth, I'm going to have abundance, I'm going to have this, but all these things are in my way, and I really don't have time today, and I'm just kind of busy right now. But March, April, man, I'm going to kick it in. You can't do that crap. If this hits you, then good. That discomfort of that old identity dying, it will try to rear its ugly head. But what is the breakout version of you that already knows what to do? Now just go act like that. Just go act like that. What does a person that has everything that you want act like? What does their day look like? Okay, so like for me, I'll just give you an example as I kind of wrap this up. Let's say that a couple of the things that I look at my board up here is I'm going to take health, longevity, physical dominance. That's one of my vision categories. And what that looks like for me is my resting heart rate is lower. My body fat is a little bit lower. My goal is to gain 8 pounds of muscle this year. Okay. And I want my biological age to go down 3 years this year. Okay. And I kind of like to look at it kind of between 60 and 70. If I can get it to go down like 2 years per year, well, then obviously I'll be 20 years younger. Right. So when I'm 70, I want my biological age still to be in the 50s. Okay. So I look at all those things and I say, okay, today, the person that has all of that, how do they act? Who are they? And I start acting like that because that's who I am. I'm the 8 pounds heavier. So, the shirts, man, I don't know, maybe I need a bigger shirt, right? And this little bit of whatever, that won't be there. And the abs will be clearer. And I think that I'll sleep better because my HRV will be better. My heart rate will be better. My breathing will be better. When I do box breathing and I'm kind of anxious, I have a hard time with that. And I'll feel happy knowing that my biological age in the next 10 years is going to be in the 40s. And maybe my back doesn't think so, but the rest of my body does. And my back in the next couple of days will think so. Because whatever I got to do to make it right, I will. Because that's who I am. Just going to take action in whatever I need. Yesterday, I didn't just go, when I first got up in the morning, started walking, I made Joe Biden look like Fred Astaire. I mean, like, how Biden can barely walk. I couldn't, I thought I was going to where was I going to go? How was I going to get around? By the end of the day, I felt better. And today I'm going to golf. And, people say, don't go. People that don't break out, herd people, don't golf, but you know what? It's a challenge. I want to stretch my back. I know there's nothing structurally wrong. It's muscular and it feels 100 times better than it did yesterday. Action cures fear. Action cures everything. So how do you break out? you take action. What prevents you from taking action? Fear. Fear of what? Fear of loss, fear of embarrassment, fear of whatever. But what if you just didn't care? You know, like I always said when I was a kid, I had nothing to lose. So guess what? I.e., I didn't care. You know, some kid from, Manhattan Beach or Palos Verdes wants to fight me. Dude, I don't want to go home tonight. You do, right? It was like that was the identity is I got nothing to lose. But in life, really, you don't have anything to lose. What are you going to lose? Right? You're going to lose your safety net. You're going to lose the security. No, you're going to gain freedom. You're going to gain abundance. You'll figure it out. Jump in the water. You know how to swim. That water looks like it's rough, but it's not. It looks like it's cold, but it's not. You'll adapt. Because you know what? Your identity is the person that loves that cold water, loves that stream, and loves and knows how to swim in a river. Right? This is all things that breakout people do. And you're going to be a breakout person, and we need to start today. What action are you going to take today? Just one action in the game. Look how far you've come, right? Look at the things that you didn't know in your 20s or your teens or whenever. And then let's just take action and believe. And you are that person. Change that identity today. All right, I hope this was helpful. We're going to wrap this up like we always do with the incredible words of Earl Nightingale, because he's talking about the same thing. You know, what you think determines on who you're going to become. The strangest secret is what you think you will become. So what are you going to think today? Think today, abundance, aim, your identity, whether it's longevity, physical dominance, faith, and spiritual authority, all these different categories that I have on my vision board. Be that person today. How would that person live today? You are all those things that you want. And if you don't have a vision board, get out a piece of paper, start writing it on your wall, whatever it is. All right. Get a flip chart. I don't care how you do it. Just don't do it electronically. Okay. That doesn't work. I mean, it does work. You write it out and then make it electronic. You can do that. Put it on Canva, all these different things. Vision board. Yeah, I got it. But like me, it's the words. It's like, that's who I am. I'm in my 40s going down biological age, right? I have 8 more pounds of muscle. And people are like, right? So like I'm getting stronger, making progress. Progress today, a couple of announcements. Is April 22nd through the 24th. Me, Nick, a couple other people on our team, we're going up to Chris Prefontaine's boot camp for real estate. They're going to do live deals. So if you ever wondered, how would I get into real estate? Come with us. April 22nd through the 24th. It's in Rhode Island. Where in Rhode Island? I don't know. I'll get you the details. It'll be in the show notes. But Chris has invited everybody who listens to Breakaway Wealth up to this boot camp. I think we can bring 20 people. And so the first 20 get in, and hopefully you're one of them, because if you're sitting there stuck and you're wondering, like, what's the first thing I do to get into real estate, is Chris will show you, right? Him and his team are going to show you step by step, live, doing deals, how to get into real estate. So come with us. All right. Thank you all for being here. See you next week.
Here's the key to success and the key to failure. We become what we think about. Now let me say that again. We become what we think about.
Thanks for listening to the Breakaway Wealth Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to this show wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. If you want to start increasing your wealth building ability right now, go to community.createtailwind.com to join our free online community and get access to free, in-depth training designed to help you build real, lasting wealth. See you next week.